After being swept in Toronto, the Giants have to turn it around fast. I really actually think they need to shake up their player personnel. Thankfully, the trade deadline is looming.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes, Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and RotoGraphs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit the subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And coming up on today's show, Giants swept in Toronto, and I'm going to make the case that they have to turn this around and fast. And thank goodness the trade deadline is coming up, because I think they need to shake up their roster and make some additions if they actually want to go for it. Also, Heliot Ramos looking unplayable in the outfield. Is he a DH? That creates a problem if that's the case. And then what can the Giants do about Justin Verlander, who remains winless and a liability on the mound every single time he goes out there? So all of that coming up today. So the Giants get swept. This most recent game was frustrating because the Giants finally scored some runs, and it has seemed that way a lot of this season. Like, they've lost several games, I think 4 games, 1-0. And it's like, if you could have just got even one run and forced extra innings. And then on days like yesterday, they get 6, but then they give up 8. And so it's just kind of gone that way. But on the season, it actually has kind of, I don't want to say evened out, but if you look at their run differential, just for example, it's only +8. Giants have only outscored their opponents by 8 runs. That has an expected record of 51-49, and they're 52-48. So they're playing a lot like a 500 team. They've lost 5 in a row, a season high, and now they're going to Atlanta, where they just really have to turn it around. Otherwise, they could sink themselves in this playoff race. So up to the minute, the Giants' playoff odds, according to FanGraphs, are 29.9%. Let's just call that 30. So in 7 out of 10 simulations that they run, the Giants do not make the playoffs. And that would just be so frustrating for a fan base that deserves better. And it's not for lack of trying. You know, a lot of the moves that they've made have been big ones. Trading for Rafael Devers, signing Willy, the big name of Justin Verlander. But for the most part, and it's really too soon to judge Devers, and that was one positive to take away from this series, and we'll get into that too, is that he was swinging the bat better. And the first series coming out of the All-Star break, we were hoping his back would, we don't know if it was affecting him at the plate, but he definitely looked better. So we'll look into how did he do in Toronto. But Willy struggled for the first many months of the season, but he has been better too lately, to be fair. Verlander has been not good pretty much the entire season, and pretty much is kind of putting it generously. But yeah, I mean, this team is just stuck in like 500 mode year after year after year after year after year. And they made the playoffs in 2021. They made the playoffs in 2016. And other than that, if you got to go back to the World Series championship years, which we're obviously very grateful for, but that's 2 playoff appearances and 2 NLDS losses in the last decade plus. And so if you miss the playoffs again, it's just like, what is this team? Like, what are the San Francisco Giants? And so that's why I'm saying this is a year where they're clearly all in I'm not saying make stupid moves that jeopardize the future, but this is a team that is in position to win now. They're just not winning right now. So the projected record is just 83.5 wins. That's the median projection. We'll look at ATC, another projection system, has them at 34.4% with a median win projection of 84 wins. And then the BatX has the Giants at just 39.2% with 84.3 wins as their median projection. So that means they run the simulation like 1,000 times and the middle result is 84-ish wins. And so those projection systems are all kind of in agreement about their odds and likely record at the end of the year, or median projected record at the end of the year. And so in reality, Giants are 6 back in the West. Dodgers have lost 3 straight. They could have lost 4 straight if the Giants had been able to score a run in the bottom of the 10th against LA with a free runner on second base to start the inning. And so the Giants could have really gained ground on LA here, but with a 5-game losing streak, they've lost ground, even though the Dodgers are not doing well right now. And the Padres are not doing super great themselves, but the Giants have fallen to 2.5 back in the wild card standings with now the same record as the Cincinnati Reds, who have a significantly better run differential. So now even the Diamondbacks, who people consider sellers, are just 2 games back of the Giants at 50-50 and just 4.5 games out of a wild card spot, 4.5, I should say. And they have a better run differential than the Giants. So for a long time, the Giants had like the third or like fourth or something best run differential in the league. And now it's fallen all the way down. And we have seen this before. They have done this multiple seasons in the last several where they've had a pretty good start, or like they've worked their way to 10-ish games over 500, but then they've just fallen all the way back. And so that is why I think going into Atlanta, where the Braves could make selling moves like right now, and hopefully they do, because they're 10.5 back out of a wild card spot and even more out of the division. The Braves are 12.5 back in the division. So their playoff odds are going to be like very low. I don't have it pulled up. I can scroll down and see it like 2%. So the Braves are going to be sellers, most likely, almost certainly. And the one thing is they're 25-24 at home, 18-31 on the road, but they are just 28-38 against teams that are at or above 500. I don't have the schedule pulled up, but going off memory, I believe the Giants swept the Braves earlier this season in San Francisco. So going into Atlanta after getting swept by the Blue Jays to start the quote-unquote second half of the season is not actually half. You know, they've now played 100 games. There's only 62 left. You go to Atlanta for 3. They're off on Thursday, and then it's a homestand, and then it's the trade deadline. So we are getting very close to the trade deadline. And by the way, after they play the Braves, Giants play the Mets, who have been struggling kind of for the same period of time as the Giants after a red-hot start, but overall a good team in a playoff position, 1.5 games up in the wild card race and just half a game back out of first place in the National League East. And so then the Giants play the Pirates. So these next 6 games, and then obviously the Pirates, you got to take care of business against them. Giants have put themselves in this position where they've got to take advantage. Otherwise, like, they're in serious trouble and they don't look like buyers. Seems like this happens every year where at the deadline, it's just they're no longer clear buyers, even though they looked like buyers for much of the season. It's very frustrating, but that's where they are again, even under Buster Posey and not Farhan Zaidi. So coming up in just a minute, we'll look back a little bit on the series in Toronto, including Heliot Ramos' defense is a problem. Rafi Devers' bat may be coming around. We'll get into it in just a minute, and before we do, Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, here we go. We're going to unfortunately look back a little bit at this series in Toronto, but one good thing, one bad thing with the defense of Ramos, and then also the good thing being the bat of Rafi Devers possibly waking up. Willy Adames hit a couple home runs. Matt Chapman homered. So there were some positives despite getting swept. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow, we'll be breaking down Game 1 of this crucial series in Atlanta. I'm kind of saying the Giants need to win this series. Like, yeah, you can never tell me you got to sweep a series unless you're mathematically like you have to. But they're going up against a right-handed pitcher. They've struggled against lefties. This right-handed pitcher, Bryce Elder, has a 5.65 ERA. Hayden Birdsong on the mound. Can he get over his issues with just completely losing command? We'll see. It's tough sometimes with humidity, and you know you're going to see that in Atlanta. So we'll see if Birdsong can pitch well, and if the Giants can hit. I like their chances when you got a guy like Rafi Devers potentially heating up, and he's a critical part of what if this team can have success or not down the stretch. Like in his Giants career, which is funny to say because it's been 28 games, he's hitting 208 with a 322 on base and 327 slugging, about 12% below major league average offensively. When he came over to the Giants this year, he was 46% above average offensively. So it's a slump, and you just hope it's not some kind of chronic issue going on with his back. That scares me. But when you look at the games in Toronto, I think you saw a lot better at bats, and he got called out on strikes at least twice on what should have been ball 4. Some horrible calls, especially in the finale in Toronto. And so the numbers don't really reflect it outside of the first game of the series when he went 2 for 4. So you had to, I guess, watch the at-bats. Yeah, like when you actually look at the numbers in the series, he hit 250 with a 250 on base and 333 slugging. That's hardly anything to write home about at all. But you can actually see the average exit velocity in these games. And in the first game and the second game, it was over 105.9 average exit velocity for that first game. And then on Sunday, his average exit velocity in 4 plate appearances, including, he struck out twice. So in two balls in play, the average exit velocity was 107 miles an hour. And he had 1 hit out of it. It was a rocket off the wall, so hard hit that he couldn't get a double out of it. But anyway, you can just see the at-bat quality has been better, still striking out a lot. And then also his last at-bat against the Dodgers, he went 0 for 5 that day to close out the second half. But he hit a rocket to center that looked like it might win the game, and it would have been great for him, great for the team, but it was caught. And so it goes right now for the Giants. But so that's a positive. Willy Adames hitting 2 home runs was a positive. think that was in the second game of the series. Overall in the season now, Adames has been close to major league average offensively, which he's come a long way from where he was. And he's basically been on fire since they finally gave him that one day off heading into that series in Colorado. And so that's really nice to see a red hot Willy Adames. As he goes, so do the Giants. There's a lot of key guys. I mean, they've just had a lot of guys slumping at the same time. Willy Adames, Rafi Devers. Well, Adames has been hot. They just haven't had multiple guys hot at the same time, is maybe more what it feels like. But Matt Chapman homered opposite field in the finale. So, he missed that month with the finger strains, multiple finger strains. So, I don't know. Warm weather in Atlanta, some hot hitters, a pitcher who's struggling, a team that's struggling in the Braves. It could be a place where the Giants score some runs finally. I mean, they did get 6 yesterday, but they got to continue to score runs and also pitch. They just right now can't seem to put it all together. But one other issue that's definitely on my mind watching that game on Sunday was Heliot Ramos' defense, which we've kind of mentioned casually here and there. But at this point, I mean, he made a horrible read on a line drive that should have been the third out of an inning in a 1-1 game. And instead, it sailed over his head and it scored 2 runs, and the Giants lost by 2. And the umpire, if you look at the umpire's scorecard, he changed the expected run total in favor of the Blue Jays by like 1.7 runs. So if you get a fair umpire and Heliot Ramos making what should have been, it's hard for me to call it routine because I played outfield in, high school, but I understand like a line drive right at you is hard to judge. And that's what it was. But this is the major leagues. This isn't high school. Like even in high school, it frustrates you as a coach or a teammate or whatever. But this is the major leagues. Like you have to catch that baseball. If you want to consider yourself a contender, that can happen like once or twice a year. But we've seen, the other day, I guess it hasn't just been casually mentioning Heliot Ramos' struggles on defense, because I said that it seems like the baseball is a wet bar of soap when Heliot Ramos picks it up sometimes. And especially recently, like it's just, he can't hold on to it. And when you're having those, and it's costing them like extra bases, like the runner is stopped, but then Heliot Ramos just drops a ball. Like he's trying to just exchange it from his glove to his hand, or he's trying to pick it up when it's just sitting on the ground and it just pops out of his hand like it's a wet bar of soap. And then runners are advancing when they weren't going to try. So that's critical. And then you have misreading, just having bad routes as well. So he took several steps in on a ball that then sailed over his head. So I've been there. That has happened to me multiple times. It's a horrible feeling. Later in the game, he struck out chasing a pitch that was like 2 feet out of the zone on like a slider away, I think it was. And he snapped his bat over his leg. And so I actually was happy to see that, because he you can't tell that he's super frustrated with himself, but it's good to know that he is, because I would be too. I mean, I want to see the players on my team unhappy or like expecting much better out of themselves than what we've seen defensively from Ramos this season, which is weird because last season he wasn't nearly as rough defensively from what I recall just watching. Yeah, in 2024, the outs above average he played a lot of center in, did he play, what am I looking? Oh yeah, he played center last year, which is crazy now to think about, where he was bad. But in the corners, he was above average. But now he's playing a corner, and he's been one of the worst defenders in the league at -8 outs above average. Also, just the run value overall at -8. And that puts him as the 5th worst defender in baseball among all players with at least 500 innings in the field. And that's a list of 193 players. Patrick Bailey, by the way, is 4th best at plus 13 runs. And Ramos is down there at minus 8 runs. To be fair, you've got some really good players near him, like Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, Will Smith of the Dodgers, Juan Soto of the Mets. But that's kind of a talking point in New York about Juan Soto. But regardless, it's just Ramos is 25 years old. And so if you're already, it's not a speed issue. Yeah, he'll turn 26 in September. And he's also in a slump at the plate. I mean, if you look at his kind of rolling weighted runs created plus, it's pretty low right now. So on the season, he's been, a little worse than he was last year. And his defense has just really hurt his overall value. And so these kind of mistakes, like, I don't know how you fix them. I don't know what drills help you get better reads on a ball, but that Robbie Ray, I mean, I would be so frustrated because you make the pitch. Yes, it was a line drive, but it should have been caught. Like, it definitely should have been caught. I don't know what the catch probability was, but based on where Ramos was standing and based on where it was hit, it was like very, very catchable. But I do just want to emphasize, it is hard to judge that ball. It is coming right at you. The physics of looking at it as it's coming at you, it is just really hard to judge depth of where it's going to end up. Like, is it in front of you? Is it behind you? If it's to your left or to your right, it's much easier to tell. But if it's kind of straight at you, it's hard to tell. But kind of like rule of thumb is you got to break back, and because it's easier to come in on a ball than it is to go back on a ball. And also, when you misjudge that ball, it's often that you misjudge it running in and it ends up over your head. And then that's just the worst feeling. And then it goes over your head, and anybody who's on base can just run forever. It's just bad. And so look, I feel for him. He's obviously frustrated. He's still a young player. First percentile outs above average, by the way. First percentile, meaning 99% of defenders have been better. So the question is, like, is he kind of looking like a DH? And if he is, then you're suddenly like, you got a bunch of DHs. You got Rafi Devers as a DH, 25-year-old Ramos looking like a DH. But I think you got to keep running him out there and left, but he just has to improve. And the Giants just have to improve. The trade deadline, less than 2 weeks away. I think they need to make some moves, or else they're not going to make the playoffs. That is my take, and we will get into it in just a minute. And again, the Justin Verlander problem we'll get into. I think I have a solution, believe it or not. We'll get into it in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are out getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am a part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. That's right, $5. And get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, here we go. We are going to get into how I think the Giants must make some significant moves. Yes, I said moves, plural, by the trade deadline, which is just over a week away, or else they're not going to make the postseason again. Thanks again for making Locked on Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers coming up tomorrow. We'll be breaking down what I consider to be a critical game one in Atlanta. Because if I'm saying this is almost a must-win series, given where that the trade deadline is coming up, if it's a must-win-ish series, then losing the first game is not a good way to start. Like, duh. But if you win the first game, you're in good position to win a series and possibly sweep, which would be just a huge salvage of obviously a disastrous start to a road trip when you get swept. So take advantage of this Braves team that has just not gained any traction this year. They've had all kinds of injuries. Anyway, the Justin Verlander problem, that's the one I'm going to discuss first. I don't know what else to say except that I have a solution. He's made 16 starts. He has not won a game, which he's the only player in the sport for which this is a topic of conversation to me. I would not mention that for anybody else. I wouldn't probably even know if it was anybody else that they hadn't quote unquote won a game, but it matters to him. It matters to his teammates. It's just a bad situation. And he's got a 4.99 ERA, a 4.87 ERA, which supports the 4.99 ERA. You combine last year and this year, it's a 5. Oh, it's not working. It was working. I don't know why. I'm going to try it one more time to combine last year and this year, and there it goes. 5.25 ERA over his last 33 starts, so that's about a full season. 5.25 ERA. The man is 42 years old, oldest player in baseball. I'm just trying to, before I make a bold declaration, I'm looking for, is there any positive here? I mean, he's not walking people recently. His fielding independent pitching recently is actually pretty good. But they got to just get rid of Justin Verlander. I don't see in what universe he's helping them. There was like the idea, Buster Posey made it clear when he introduced him, when they signed him, that this is not just, a veteran player coming in to mentor the young players. They said, we expect him to be really, really good. Something along those lines. Well, incorrect. He has not been really, really good. And so I think it's been long enough, and I don't care about his status as a future Hall of Famer. He didn't do that with the Giants. He's a Hall of Famer with the Tigers and the Astros. With the Giants, he's just a bad pitcher at this point. I'm just telling it like it is, bluntly. You know it. Like, beating around the bush would be saying anything other than what I'm saying. And so he's got a full no trade clause. No team would give you anything in return anyway. This is a bad signing. It has not worked out. Cut your losses and either trade for a starting pitcher who can actually help you win games, or call up Carson Whisenhunt and put him in the rotation. Be a very young rotation. So I think they do need to trade for a starting pitcher. And I also think they need to trade for at least one hitter. And so, but I just think you're putting yourself in basically automatic loss mode. Like, starting Justin Verlander the first game out of the All-Star break, yikes. I get it. Logan Webb pitched in the All-Star game, so maybe he just wasn't ready to go on game one, whatever. But like, you look at that and you're like, okay, you're probably going to lose. And sure enough, he has another bad outing. It's just bad outing after bad outing after bad outing. There's some good ones sprinkled in there. There was a 1-run outing against the White Sox, though. There was some good, he actually went on a pretty decent stretch in the middle of the season where he had a 3.31 ERA over about 50 innings from April 20th to the end of June. So 3.31 ERA should get you better than what he's got. But the fielding independent pitching was still high. And the last now 3 starts, he's allowed 14 runs in 11 2/3 innings with an ERA of 9.26. But the fielding independent pitching is 3.43. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll turn it around. But geez, it's just been rough. And anyway, I think like if you want to be serious about contending, you can't just play to nostalgia. And like Justin Verlander's track record of once being good. If you want to be serious, like you may miss the playoffs by a game. And was it really worth it to run Justin Verlander out there because he's Justin Verlander? To me, it's not. I want them to make the playoffs no matter what. And so you kind of got to be ruthless. And I think this is a test for Buster Posey. Although, like I said, some of the peripheral numbers have been better lately, but the eye test just has been, he can't go through a really good game like with any kind of consistency. And I think they need hitters too. And so there's some good hitters on the trade block. You know, ESPN put out their top trade candidates, top 50. Steven Kwan, second on the list. Like, you could still use Ramos in the outfield long term, and Kwan could just join you out there. He's got multiple years of team control. There are some starting pitchers. That's not the strength of this trade class, though. But Josh Naylor and Ryan O'Hearn as first baseman / DHs, I guess, if Devers plays first. But like, I think you need a first baseman in addition to a pitcher at least. And then there's the bullpen too. So we'll look more at that trade list coming up this week. And tomorrow we'll be back breaking down Hayden Birdsong against Bryce Elder in a very important game 1 of this series against the Braves. That is all the time we have for today. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, I'm Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.